It is now 5 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Waxahachie Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show we have 6 trustees in attendance, 5 in person, and 1 is joining us via Zoom. And this meeting has been called, and the notice of this meeting has been duly posted for time and manner required by law. At this time, the board will convene into closed session according to section 551.001 et sec of the Texas Government Code. It is now 5 p.m. Okay, it is now 6:17. The board is going to reconvene into open session. At this time, I'll ask Mr. Cooper to lead us in our invocation, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flag by Audrey and Olivia Sack.
All right, let us pray. Heavenly Father, most gracious eternal God, Father, we thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for continuing to bless our WISD community, students, staff, partners, and servants. Father, we just thank you, Father, for all that you have done and all that you plan to do. Father, we ask that you would help this meeting to be nothing more, nothing less than you have perfectly planned. Clear our hearts and purify our minds, that we may make right decisions with everyone in mind. And Father, we ask, and with your help, we believe that we can keep the main thing, which is our future, our children. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Thank God, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Okay, y'all stand right over here.
Okay, our next item will be our recognitions. Mrs. Troll, I know we have a few of those this evening.
Good evening, Dr. Averett and board. Tonight we just have one recognition, and that's for our athletic department, and I want to introduce our Executive Athletic Director, Brian Rogers.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Averett. We'd like to recognize and congratulate our state qualifying powerlifters, Zakiah Piper, Lane Fincher, and Jacob Irvin for their exceptional achievements this season. Their dedication, hard work, and commitment have led them to these remarkable achievements. Zakiah finished 13th in the state in her weight class. Lane finished 25th in the state in his weight class, and Jacob finished 18th in the state in his weight class. Congratulations, Zakiah, Lane, Jacob, and Coach Mason and Coach Kirsch on a job well done.
Next item on our agenda is our open forum. This is the portion of the board meeting when the board receives input from patrons. Each person who addresses the board will have 5 minutes to speak on his or her issue. Because of the posting requirements of the Open Meetings Act, board members will not ask questions of the patron nor answer any questions posed by the patron. No action can be taken on any issue presented during the patron comment section of the board meeting. Patrons addressing the board will be notified when they are approaching the last 60 seconds of their allotted time to speak. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Ms. Gretchen Gray. I will be your timekeeper, and I'll let you know when you have about a minute left.
Okay, hello board. Gretchen Gray, 536 Haymeadow. I'm here to voice my concern about the handling of TIA. As a board, I know you're all now aware of the fact that not one teacher who earned the designation will be receiving their allotment that was promised to them for meeting the expectations that were set by our district. Our evaluations were great and our student growth was outstanding. Now I know many in our community may be thinking, oh, that's what teachers are supposed to do. True, we teach and get our students to grow daily. The incentive pay program, though, that our district adopted, along with many across the state, was designed to get teachers more pay for putting in more work. When it was introduced a couple of years ago, we were told that if you opt into this program, you'll receive the extra evaluations and walkthroughs. In order to reach a designation, you must have received high marks on your evaluations from your campus principal and other administrators. Ms. Burkhalter and Ms. Malone, the former principal of Clift, appraised me along with my campus principal at the time, Tim Day. I'm wrapping up year 18, half of those being in WISD. I've always received high marks on my evaluations. My students have always made growth, but with my extra instruction, communication with families, countless hours away from my own family to internalize my lessons and make additional differentiation notes for my students who needed that, never calling in sick or taking personal days unless it was absolutely necessary because attendance was a factor in earning a designation, but that was later taken out of the requirement without our knowledge. These kids grew. So you can imagine my delight when I found out that I earned a designation. Extra hard work was supposed to equal extra pay. Wrong. Our scorecards were submitted in October. We were notified that our cards were being submitted. All was just fine until we received an email a couple weeks before spring break stating that there was an issue with our submission and an appeal was being filed. There was no mention of the VAM score. None of the teachers knew about it. I asked my principal what it was and thought to myself, that's odd. This data point wasn't mentioned one time when we were informed about TIA or through the rest of the process. It seems as if there was a possibility that there was going to be an issue with teachers receiving their payout. We should have been notified. A couple of weeks later, the Friday before spring break, at roughly 3 o'clock, we were notified that not one teacher would receive their pay because the appeal that was filed was denied. Being notified of this on this day and at this time was infuriating because we couldn't ask any questions or voice any concerns. Way to kick off spring break. An explanatory meeting was offered to the 30 or so teachers in the district who earned a designation. In that meeting, we were told about the VAM score. Not one teacher in that room knew what this data point was, and I still don't fully understand the purpose of this score. After hearing clarifying questions and answers given, it led me to wonder, what's the plan for the current year? Because my plan for this year is to get my students to grow even more and level up on that payout. The answer to my question was simply, we're working with neighboring districts and Region 10. So for 2 school years in a row, I have, along with so many other teachers, gone above and beyond to help our students. Being told that I, along with so many other teachers, were rated too high felt like a gut punch. One reason that you have learned was the cause of us not receiving our earned payout is that administrators rated us too high. The solution? Put everyone back to proficient. That's like a high school teacher saying, I don't give A's. When I voiced my frustration that we did all of this work for nothing, I was told, no, you did it for the kids. While I do everything I can for my students because being a teacher is in my blood, I will not be made to feel bad for expecting a compensation for the job that I do. I can accept not being paid my allotment for whatever reason is given. I cannot accept, however, the fact that teachers are leaving this district.
You have 1 minute.
We also cannot forget that really great teachers do not want to come here. We can go right up the road and make thousands more and have the chance to earn TIA. My concern about teacher pay is not a selfish one. I've never been one to complain about my pay. It's the greatest job on the planet, and it's allowed me to have a perfect mom schedule. My concern is for the future of our district. My son still has 4 more years. I want the best teachers on the planet for him. My daughter and her fiance just bought a house here. I want the best teachers on the planet for my grandchildren. My little baby teacher, who has the highest growth scores in the district,
About 20 seconds.
has only been here for 2 years. She's doing phenomenally, but she doesn't have roots here yet, which makes me really, really worried, not just for her, but all of those new teachers out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Jenkins. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please. I will let you know when you have approximately 1 minute remaining.
Karen Jenkins, 2710 O'Lidley Road, Waxahachie. Can I start? Just start?
Yeah.
Okay. Unlike her, I'm not prepared. I don't have a paper in front of me. I really just came to speak from the heart tonight. If you look at me, you see I'm tired. I graded papers till 4 o'clock this morning because it's the end of the grading period. I have to go to a baseball game this week because one of my kids said, Ms. Jenkins, please come to my game. I haven't seen you yet. There's a theater performance on Thursday night. I'll be there. Because another student said, Ms. Jenkins, please come. I haven't seen you there yet. I don't grade in class because there's no time. All my grading occurs after hours. So that's why I look so tired. I've gained a little bit of weight because I sit a lot at home. Please look over in the audience and see this wonderful group of teachers sitting on the first 3 rows. They work hard. We all work hard. In this district, twice in the past few years, we've been told, do this, and we will compensate you well. Our teachers do that. We were told we would look at MAP scores several years ago, and we would get bonuses based on those scores. In English, there were 2 tests that were taken. We were really excited because we saw a lot of growth. Well, we expected a certain compensation. When the compensation did come, we didn't get what we thought we were going to get because they used 1 test instead of 2, even though we've been preparing the students for 2 tests because we have both reading and writing on the STAR test. So it was a disappointment, and I did address that with the superintendent, but it was too late. Recently, we were told, work hard. We want to be a part of this TIA program, and we will compensate you. And as she pointed out, it's not all about money, but teachers aren't at the 6-figure income level. Maybe some of these teachers here will get to be there. In my generation, we were not. I'm old. I don't have a lot of years left. These teachers do. So I'm here to say, do something for those teachers. They want to have what other people have. They give freely. I've been listening to teachers say, I'm on my 600th pencil I've given kids this year. Because you do it. It's what we do. Whether it's paper towel, Clorox white bleaches, we buy them ourselves because our kids need them. That little bit of money, and it is small, it made a difference. People planned trips. People planned retirement. And I'm sorry, I cry when I'm tired. But please, what I'm here to ask you to do is go back and look. There were 47 schools in our cohort, I think. And again, I'm not sure about these numbers. 7 didn't make it. Why didn't we make it? We teachers did what we were asked to do. We prepared for the classroom. We helped our students gain growth. We worked hard. It was a surprise. Spring break, we got the email. And I said, don't worry, they'll fix it. It didn't get fixed. And again, we don't want to be millionaires. If we did, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But we do work hard. And there are a lot of teachers that work hard. I would like to see teachers across the state, across the nation get nice raises. But those aren't the fields we picked. We're here because we have a passion for the kids. And this is my 39th year. I will keep teaching until I can't stop, until I can't walk. I'm getting there. When we do STAR and walk around for hours, it really affects these ankles and this body. But my students said, thank you, Mrs. Jenkins, I was ready. I knew what to do, from my lowest student to my most advanced student. So that's why I'm here.
1 minute.
It's too late for me, but it's not too late for them. So please, check into what needed to be happened, hire people who can do the numbers. When I say that, I mean, it was a hard task. I would have had a hard time doing that. But I know there are experts out there that other districts hired. Hire an expert, teach them to teach our people so our teachers can be successful too, even in compensation. Thank you.
Our next item is our report section. Our report number, letter A, is our superintendent's report. Dr. Avery.
Okay. Thank you, Board. First up is just our monthly enrollment in ADA. If we can see through the end of March, holding steady on our enrollment, about 11,162, down about 11 from February. Our attendance did come up a little more than 1%, which we're happy about that, but we know we did struggle through flu season hit us pretty hard when we dropped down in January and February. So looking better over March. And again, just remember, as we go through the year, if we have students graduate through our high school of choice program that they are unenrolled, they get off our rolls. So that does happen too. So again, pretty steady. We had our first job fair in several years on Saturday, April the 5th. WISD had representatives from all of our campuses and departments on hand to speak with the candidates. We were happy. Initially, we had about 50 folks registered, and then the week before, or during that week, we had bumped up to about 105. And then by the time we got to Saturday, we had 157 individuals that registered for our event in advance. With principals and directors and support staff folks all said they were really impressed with the quality of applicants that came to see us. In fact, several principals, I know Mr. Perry told me, he said any of the people that he talks to that day, he had if he had a position for him, and he had several, he would have hired them because they were that quality. That was good. Just a couple of pictures from the group. We set up in the main gym there at Waxahachie High School, and we had every department and every campus was there to meet potential candidates for our district. Our Special Olympics track meet is coming up on the 17th. That's this Thursday. On Friday the 11th, we had our annual Special Olympics pep rally. We had athletes from across our district get recognized in front of the peers. I got to announce them. I tell you, if you want your cup filled, that is an event that'll absolutely do it. It was fantastic, and I had a great time in that, and just seeing all of our kids and parents and everybody was involved. It was just like a football pep rally. It was or any other athletic event. It was great. And that's all I have for you, Superintendent's report. And up next, we have Ms. Mott.
So this is the part of the agenda we're going a little bit out of order. So this is actually Report E, which will be the informational report for the district. Data validated for teacher incentive allotment.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Averett. I will be reviewing our data capture from last year for TIA. And just a reminder of our timeline. Back in April of 2023 was when we submitted our initial TIA application. Last year was our first year for data capture. In September of 2024, right before the submission was due in October, in September, the state published their VAM, or Value Added Measure scores, for the first time ever. And so that hit us as a little bit of a surprise, as it did hit across the state as a little bit of a surprise. And then data was due in October. In February, we did receive the data validation results that we'll be looking at this evening. We submitted an appeal in March, and unfortunately, we were denied on the appeal. And then coming up soon, a couple dates to keep in mind, actually tomorrow is the deadline for submission of our expansion, which would be in effect for next year of our system. And we are just adding two pieces. We're adding two eligibility groups, U.S. History and Social Studies 8. So those teachers will now be in our eligibility group as well. And then the other thing upcoming in October of 2025 will be the data submission for this current year that we are in. So what, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I had a question about that. So has the data for this group of 31, is it being resubmitted, or
No.
how does that work?
No, once it is denied, there is no resubmission.
Okay, so they will have to next year, they'll have to go back through data recapture, is that correct?
Correct, yes, yes. Every year, regardless of your system, you always go through a data capture in order to bring in all the scores.
Okay, so tomorrow you'll be submitting the data from,
No, tomorrow is just to explain any expansions or modifications of our system for the next school year. So we're adding more teachers into the eligibility group on our expansion this year, for next year. We're not submitting any data. We're just adding teachers to our original plan.
okay, but the original group will not be submitted. I mean, they can't be submitted.
No, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what exactly gets submitted in a data validation? Here are the highlights of what gets submitted. Of course, teachers' names, ID numbers, the campus they teach at, what their assignment is, grade and content. And then the two big ones, of course, that are important for data validation is the student growth score, the percentage of the students meeting their projected growth score for a teacher. I pull that data out of MAP, and I pull it off of EOC transition tables, depending on which category the teacher is in. And the other piece of data that I pull is the T-test observation score, and that is domain 2 and 3. T-test scores are conducted on campuses by campus administration. So those are the pieces of data that I pull into a spreadsheet that then I submit to TIA. So as part of a holistic review, we get this score sheet back that is very specific to the data. And you see there are 5 domains for the data. Domains A, domain B, and domain C make up about 90% of the final score, about 90 points. So 30 points for domain A, 30 points for B, 30 points for C. Domain D is worth about 10% or 10 points approximately. So if you go back up and you look on the ones that I highlighted are the ones that we struggled the most in. You can see domain A. This has to do with our correlation between our T-test ratings and growth. We got 20, a little over 20 points out of about 30. So not bad for our first year out, but we definitely have room to grow there. Domain B is one that really hurt us. Out of about 30 points, we only got a little over 2.5. And that's where that value added measure VAM score comes in. And remember, those were published in September for the first time ever. Those were checks 2 and 3. And then domain C, also worth about 30 points, and we got a little over 16 there. There are 4 checks within that domain, and 2 of them, checks 4 and 6, were concerns for us. So I'll go through the domains a little bit more in depth. Go ahead, Ms. Kriegel.
Okay, so the VAM score, I was reading through everything, as you know I do, and I saw something where the VAM score did not have to be used. Is that correct?
So we did not use it. Districts across the state did not use it because it had never been published before.
Right.
So nobody used it. However, the state of Texas judged our data by using the VAM score, as you can see on the scorecard here. They put their own state growth score into the plan, even though we did not have it part of our plan, as no one in the state did, because it had never been used before.
Okay, because what I saw said the VAM score doesn't have to be used or something like
Correct.
that, so.
Still doesn't have to be used. You don't, as a local plan, you do not have to include it. However, the state will judge your system according to VAM.
Okay, so we don't have to use it, but yet the state's going to, let's say the word, ding us with it.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
but anyway,
Okay.
there are a lot of things wrong.
Yeah, so we'll go through and look at some of these domains, give you some snippets of data to help better understand. So looking at domain A, the bar graph there shows the blue and the orange together make one teacher. So this is an actual data pull. It's just a snippet I took from one of our campuses. The blue bar for that teacher represents their T-test score. The orange bar for that teacher represents their student growth score, either coming from MAP or coming from EOC. So what they're looking for in domain A is how closely do those 2 bars align? And you can see in our sample of data here, they're not aligning. Our blues are consistently higher and sometimes lots higher than our growth scores were reported, okay? Remember, this is coming out of our T-test, Strive. I just take the data and I pull it in there, and coming out of our MAP EOC data. So this is the concern that domain A has, is we need to better align our data. We need to make sure that we are using our t-test rubric to make sure that we are better aligning. When I saw this data last summer before we submitted, we did take some steps as a district to say, hey, we got to work on this domain. And so we did a lot of work in the fall with our principals, our leaders on campus. We looked very closely at the t-test rubric. We did in-depth study on that and just continuing trying to improve our scores in Domain A. We got 20 out of 30. Domain A is a do or die domain. You need 30 points in Domain A. You've got to get the max there because then it filters down through the rest of your system. So we are continuing to work toward that. We have additional plans next fall through next year to continue to improve this alignment because as you see here on this chart, as this sample from one of our campuses, it is something we really need to work on. We need to get that alignment. Okay, so that is Domain A. Domain B, back Ms. Kriegel to the VAM scores. VAM is really hard to wrap your mind around. So VAM looks at the testing history of each student in a classroom. So a fourth grader is the first students that produce a VAM score because they have a testing history. They took third grade math, third grade reading. So if I'm a fifth grade math teacher and I've got students in my classroom, every one of those students is producing a projected VAM score, and it's based on their testing history. So those students in my fifth grade math class, they have 4 tests that the state's going to look at. Third grade math and reading, fourth grade math and reading. And they're going to use that testing history, compare it to how other students across the state of Texas with a comparable testing history perform in order to make a projected scaled score for that student to achieve. If the student gets that scale score or above, then the teacher gets a point for VAM. So it's not really about passing or failing STAR, it's about did they meet a projected performance. So if a student's been going along and they've been in the master's category their whole testing history, we would expect that student to continue at the same level. Okay, not every teacher produces a VAM score. I've listed there all the teachers that produce a VAM score. Remember, you have to have a testing history to produce a VAM score. I think of it as a state-generated growth score. Okay, so how did VAM hurt us in data validation? So check 2 is part of that Domain B. These are the teachers that we put forth for a designation. So the green for Waxahachie, we put forth 2 teachers in the recognized category. We put forth 10 in the exemplary, and we put forth 4 in the masters. According to the state VAM scores, and using the same cut points that we used, they said we should have had 12 in the recognized, 6 in the exemplary, and 3 in the masters. Check 2 is looking for, are we designating the same proportion-wise? Well, 12, 6, and 3 is not the same proportion that we try to designate at 2, 10, and 4. So unfortunately for this check, we got 0 points for this check. We were not designating the same teachers that VAM said we should have been designated. The other part of Domain B is this check 3. So on check 3, once again, the green represents WISD teachers with a VAM score that we put forth for a designation. So if you look at teachers, the green dots in the master's column, and you see how they are sliding across to the purple dot, that is showing what their VAM score is. So the first teacher there, we put her forth as a master teacher. She had a high t-test score and a high MAP score, put her into that master's category. However, her VAM score was below 55. And so the state said that teacher, according to VAM, should not have been designated. Okay, so we lost -1 point there. And you can see as you go down the board, anytime you're moving to the left, you're not gaining a lot of points. And if you're going all the way to the left under no designation, you're actually getting negative points. Okay? So there were some times where we did pretty well, like there's an exemplary teacher there that only slid down to recognized with a VAM score. We got positive points there, 0.25. So there are times that you pick up positives. So if you take and you add up all of the scores on this chart, we were just a little bit above a 0. And unfortunately, that equated to 2.5 points out of 30 for Domain B. So that was our biggest struggle area there. Here's a scatter plot that will show you the relationship between the VAM scores and the MAP and EOC. On a scatter plot that shows correlation, you are looking to be able to draw a line through the data, and the points should be congregated close to that line. And you can see here on our scatter plot, we do not have correlation between our VAM and our MAP and EOC. And this was really a tough piece in our holistic review that we could not overcome even on appeal. There is just no correlation there. The VAM scores running across the bottom, and then the MAP are coming up the left-hand side. They're just not correlating. Okay, so that is domain B. Domain C, this has to do with the fairness of our system. TIA wants to make sure that a teacher does not have an advantage at being over one particular campus or another with their T-test evaluation. So these are only looking at teachers that we put forth for a designation. At the recognized levels, here are campuses and their average T-test score for the teachers we put forth for a designation. So the range of scores was from a 3.8 to a 4.1. It's a 0.3 difference, but the state says in order to receive points in this category, you have to be under 0.25 of a range. So we need to rein those scores in a little bit more. We need to be a little bit better calibrated. This was at the recognized level. We were really close to getting some points there. However, when we went to the exemplary level, you can see a bigger discrepancy in our bars there. We ranged from a score of a 3.8 to a 4.5, and remember, T-test is out of a possible 5.0. So we have a pretty big range there, 0.7, and we really need to rein in and calibrate closer campus to campus and make sure that what a principal sees at one campus, the same type lesson with the same type level of instruction would be the same at another campus. And then lastly, our master level teachers that we put forth here is their range, 3.8 to a 4.5. We are 0.7, so well out of that range to receive points here as well. Plans moving forward for next year to help with this domain is we will be having principals in groups on campuses once a month, walking together on campuses and calibrating together in person live. It's much different from doing that from a video, which we did previously to try to calibrate, but we're going to take more steps next year to get stronger calibration between all of our campus leaders. Okay, so the data that they were looking for to show strong correlation, here's actual examples of data from our submitted data. You can see teacher A, their VAM and MAP score is pretty closely aligned. There's not an exact number of how far it can be off, but somewhere around 10 points you'd like to see them aligned. And they have a T-test score of 3.5. So that's right on. That's a good line of data that they're looking for. Teacher C, right on for VAM and MAP. I starred the T-test because it is a little bit high for a VAM and MAP score, but it's not anything completely out of a range. I would still consider that really good data alignment. So we did have examples of good data alignment. Unfortunately, we had a lot of examples of low correlation data. If you look at this first teacher, VAM and MAP scores, they're off a little bit, but they're not significant. The problem with teacher 1 is the low MAP and VAM, and then you have an extremely high T-test score. Out of a possible 5.0, this teacher received a 4.7. However, the students in that classroom through VAM and MAP are not achieving at that high of a level. And then teacher 2, this is kind of the opposite of that. We have a VAM and MAP score that looks pretty good, just barely below that 55% threshold. And that should correlate to about a 3.7 or 3.8 T-test. But with this particular teacher, it correlated to a 2.1, or did not correlate, I should say. And so these discrepancies are what caused our data to not pass style of validation. We're just not strongly correlated yet. So unfortunately, we had too many examples like these 5 that I randomly pulled from our data. Okay, so the things that we really have to look at and consider moving forward, what were the root causes for the VAM misalignment? why did our VAM scores that the state put out in September not better align with our MAP scores? One consideration is we are looking closely at our administration of MAP, looking at our protocols. How did we administer it? Were we consistent in all administrations during the year, and so that we give ourselves the best chance to produce consistent data? That's one of our concerns, and we're looking into. The other one is, of course, to improve the calibration between campuses, and we are already thick in plans for next year of how to continue to improve that. We did calibration 2 years ago. We worked on a deep dive on the rubric this year, and next year we'll take another step, and we will be out on campuses calibrating live together in classrooms. Okay, so here are some action steps that we've taken already in response to the data validation. We've consulted with other Region 10 TIA districts and focused on Cohort F, which is the cohort we were a part of. We learned quite a bit, just talking with them, making sure our plan looks similar to theirs. We also consulted with other successful districts in all different cohorts. Some of the suggestions was to move from a T-test observation score to a T-test summative with a growth measure, and that will help us better align. We will be notifying teachers after the system is approved. So notifications will not go out to teachers until February or March when we receive information back from the state. Monthly calibration walks that I already talked about, those are in the plans for next year. We are working with Region 10. They can come in and do additional calibration training for our administrators, as well as they can help us with data as well. There's a TIA summer conference that we plan to attend. And last one, we met this last Friday with a consultant that many members in Region 10 are using, and he is active across the state as well. He had some good advice for us, and I think he will be a great support tool for us going forward as we are looking at a partnership with his consulting company as well. They do a lot of districts, and so they see a lot of different things. So it was great to meet with him on Friday and get some of his insights. I know that's a lot of information. Feel free to ask any questions. I can go back and we can look at graphs again. How can I help?
Ms.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I couldn't see any of the charts because my video's not working, but during this whole process that where the teachers weren't successful and all the things didn't match up, who did you consult with during that process? Did you go to other people and ask for help?
Okay, tell me more about during what time?
During the time that this last data thing was being prepared that was turned in and it didn't match up enough to get the teachers designated.
So when our first notice of the data validation fail was emailed to us, we did work with Region 10 on the appeal.
But no one was consulted during the whole process of the data and the principal T-test stuff or anything like that?
We submitted our data in October, and then it's just a waiting game, waiting for results to return. We're not notified of anything until February. I don't feel like I'm answering your question. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Well, we've had several people in the last few weeks tell us that during their process, they actually, the consultant that you were talking about, they used the consultant in the first place, and their districts passed. I guess what I'm asking is, why didn't we use one?
We put the data sheet together. We thought we had a solid system. We had used other people's, we looked at other systems ahead of us in other cohorts. Hindsight, that would have been great to jump in and use one of those consultants out there. I think there are more consultants available now the longer TIA has been going on. And so I don't have a great answer for you as to why we didn't start with that. We went through our stakeholder meetings. We felt like we had a good system in place. The system that we put forth for approval back in 2023 was approved as a good system. The system isn't the question really, the concern was, in this data validation, was the growth scores and the t-test scores.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Mont, how much training did our principals get in collaborating the t-test scores with the actual scores?
Right, so all of our teachers are certified t-test appraisers.
All of our principals are
All of our principals, I'm sorry. All of our principals and assistant principals are t-test appraisers. They go through a certification with the state, and so they're certified that way. 2 years ago, I went through and basically retrained everyone at a deeper level before we started the TIA process. So we did that last year. We calibrated with videos, lots of collaborative conversations through those videos. We watched videos at all levels, all different content areas, and much like when you go through t-test training, that is how they're trained. So I went ahead and did a full refresher training on all of that 2 years ago, last year, I guess. This year, in response to the skew that I saw when I was pulling together the data on the data sheet to submit, I did see the skew, and it did concern me at that point. And so I did the deep dive on the t-test rubric this year. At all the principal meetings, we have met and gone through every dimension. There are 8 dimensions that are used for TIA. We did a deep dive of them all across all of the levels of performance from 1 through 5. We spent a lot of time on that because it's just important to be really knowledgeable in the t-test rubric.
Where is the disconnect? I mean, because our principals, you're telling me our principals were trained in it and understood it, and our teachers did what they're supposed to do. So I guess where is the disconnect?
I think one of the things that just kind of hit everybody, and not just us, but everyone across the state, if you look at that domain B, out of 30 possible points, we got hit with some VAM scores that no one knew were coming, okay? And being our first year, we did actually pretty well in domain A for a first year district. Other districts that were in previous cohorts did not do as well in domain A as we did the first year. But unfortunately, our first year to jump in, they hit us with domain B, which was the VAM scores. If we had even had 5 more points in domain A, we probably would have gotten through. But we didn't have that second year to continue to get better at domain A. And so really it's unfortunate that we were hit with the VAM scores this year for the first year.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for our teachers and staff that are not receiving their designations, I believe is the correct word.
I agree.
I'm very upset that this group of teachers, who are among our best teachers in the district, are losing out on thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's very, very, I can't tell you how upset that I am about it. And then this year, what you're telling me, if I understand correctly, so now we're going to submit the information from this year. We'll submit it next fall, but that's for the second cohort of our group.
You're
And
correct.
so what the teachers that we had this year that were rejected, are they going to have to go through where they look at all the scores again and what's it called, a calibration year or?
Do it every year.
No, they'll be included in this year's data.
Okay, they will.
Absolutely, I'm sorry, if that was your question earlier, I'm sorry if I
Yeah,
misunderstood
okay.
it. Yes, they'll be absolutely eligible again when we submit data this coming October.
Okay.
We'll be looking at their growth and their t-test scores once again. Absolutely, they're on the same playing field.
Okay, I thought that
sorry,
they were
I
having to
misunderstood.
go back
No.
all the way through, and it's like, okay,
We collect
uh,
data on everybody every year.
Okay, so they will be eligible
Yes,
to be included in this next cohort?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right, and you're going to do the next cohort a little differently, is that what I was told, where
We
you're gonna
do
look
have
at?
a couple of changes. We will be adding U.S. history and social studies 8, of course. The other change we're going to make is hopefully to better align. We're going to move a little bit away from map wherever we can. So we're going to use star transition tables for grades 4 through 8 in reading and math instead of using MAP, because star to star seems more reasonable than star to MAP comparisons. So hopefully that will help our scores calibrate better to the VAM score as well as to our T-test scores. And those star transition tables just became available, so it wasn't an option before.
Right, and then from what I believe Dr. Averett said, you're going to also go more towards the final evaluation.
Yes, we will be moving in the direction of a summative score that will have a walkthrough in there. I mean, we'll have 3 walkthroughs or 4. We'll have to make that determination, and an observation. And then we'll also be adding a growth for the whole year, looking at teachers and how each one of their students is growing through the whole year. That really should be part of the T-test summative. And so that will be included in there as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So, Ms. Mott, on Domain B, it sounds like across the state, a lot of people suffered,
Correct.
but maybe the higher scores on Domain A is what helped them to improve.
Yes, like one of the districts that we talked to, I think they came out first year in Domain A with 15 points. Well, by year 2, they really figured out how to fix that, and so they hit 30 points, and they just survived Domain B. And unfortunately, we just weren't in that situation to come out with a high enough Domain A to survive Domain B, because everybody got hit sideways by B. Yeah. It was just an unfortunate situation with Cohort F and how that landed. And the districts that I talked to that struggled, they were Cohort F.
Do you have an estimate on the number, like percentage of which districts were successful in achieving the status?
I don't. I have not seen anything out yet that says how many achieve success. Now, there is something on the website that looks kind of deceptive. That's a approval rating of the system. So like when they say 97% of districts in Cohort F had approval, that means approval of their system, like what we submitted in 2023, that our system is good. It's just unfortunate our data did not align. But I have not seen what the stats you're looking for. I have not seen those yet.
Ms. Mott, so I know TIA is relatively new. Has Waxahachie ever received the designation?
No. This year was our first year to submit data.
Okay.
I guess last year was our first year to submit data.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Ms. Mott. Our next report will be our informational bond 2023 construction update. Mr. Mott.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Abraham, I'm here to give you your Bond 2023 update for the month of May. We're going to talk about Jimmy Ray first. Jimmy Ray did have some playground damage in the storm right as we went into spring break. As you can see in the picture up there on the top left, you can see one of the actual true awnings totally came off, holes bent at the ground, all that. The other awning had a little bit of damage. We did go ahead and take off the canopy top. And you can see there in the bottom of those pictures, you can see some of the turf and some of the padding came loose and came. So we have had to contact the installer and the manufacturer and have them to come out and make sure the playground structure itself is safe and any of the other structures. We have taken the canopy off of the one that you do see there still, just for safety's sakes. We have been told, I was told late last week that everything is safe as the structure-wise, but actually the padding at the bottom that they would land on and safely if they fell off of anything is not. So we've just gotten a quote. Actually, in this meeting, I got the quote from the company to get that part of it, the padding structure and all that safe, and then we can then open the playground, and then this summer we'll actually get new canopies and those kind of things put on. We're not waiting to put canopies on there to open it. As soon as we can get that padding structure redone and safe for the kids to be on there to their standards, then we'll open both those playgrounds. Then this summer we'll look to replace both canopies and tarps and all that. It is not a warranty item because it is storm related. It's not installation or anything like that. It will be on us. I don't know if it's an insurance claim. I don't know anything on that. I just know it will be on the district on that. So the Hancock building, which will be the future home of Coleman Junior High, it's about 90% complete. The biggest area we're working on is the storm shelter going through it. and it was a big part of what we were a little bit behind of some of the things at the beginning of that. So it's a little bit further behind than we would like. We're working, right now they're doing a 6.5 days a week job there on that one to try to get us in by the end of the month. The nice thing about it is if for some reason they do go over, we're not at a cost and it's not holding us back because we're not trying to move into it in May 1st. We're not moving into it till the summer anyways. We will not be moving global kids, anything into that part of the building. So it's not affecting us if they don't hit the May 30th update. But as of this morning, they hadn't told me they were or weren't. They just felt confident they were going to. They feel confident they will. I'm not as confident, but I'm not going to say we're not going to make it. I mean, I just look at it one way, they look at it different. Two sets of eyes on that. But we are working on things. You'll see some pictures here. The band hall flooring's going in, getting the final doors from band hall into the current building. And then the boys' locker room in the back, we're working to install all the plumbing, finish the plumbing. When I say plumbing, I'm talking about more plumbing fixtures versus toilets, those kind of things. Not actual plumbing in the wall, just attaching the fixtures and those kind of things into that. So you can picture there on the top left, that is actually one of your art rooms. You can see the cabinetries all going in, those kind of things. Picture in the middle is one of your science rooms. Picture in the top right is one of the prep rooms between the two new science rooms. So you have a science room, a prep room for both science rooms, and then a science room on the other side. So they'll share a prep room between them. You can see, like I said, all the cabinetry and all those things are going in. And then that's usually a good indication of we're getting a lot closer because then it has to be climatized and those kind of things. Picture on the top left is actually one of your ensemble practice rooms there in the band hall. It has the mirrors in it that you can kind of see. It's hard to understand that, but there is mirrors in that. That is the reflection. Picture on the middle is the actual main band hall. You can see there, they're getting it ready to put the flooring in. They just finished putting in all the sound panels you see along the top, the trophy rack, or trophy shelf, all those kind of things. And you can see that large pallet right there next to the man in the yellow vest. That is actually the flooring. They just rolled in and started getting climatized in that area. Picture in the top right is your life skills room. Last week they were putting in the rails and those kind of things in the life skill room for that. We're going to move on to Finley. It's about 40% complete, but please understand about 50% of this job will be done this summer. When I say that is, we are going to do a lot of demo and a lot of tearing up of that building this summer. So to say we're 40% complete doesn't sound like a lot. We've been working all year, but it's a lot compared to what we're going to be doing this summer when we really get into that job. The admin and the kitchen areas are two big areas we're working on right now. We've done the masonry on the front of the building. Is about 85% complete. As soon as they finish it, they'll move to the back and do what little bit. There's not a lot of masonry in the back, but there is a little bit. Kitchen's coming along pretty good. We did run into some issues with the ductwork there. We're trying to figure out with our engineering of the ductwork as to we need to move it some. We've seen some areas that we have some problems, and so they're working on a solution there. We also ran into some moisture under the kitchen due to construction that had got underneath there. We had to just deal with that a little bit while we were working up under the kitchen. So picture there on the upper left is the front of the building. Actually, all up underneath that awning, if you were to go right up to it, all that masonry is finished. They're just to the left side. It was in that first picture, just to the left side of that new main riser area there in the front of the building. That's the area there's still masonry on the front. And then you've got the middle picture there is actually going to be looking into the counselor suite and the SRO's office. The picture on your right is looking from the reception, looking down the main hallway of the admin suite. Howard Junior High is about 45% complete. We just started the demo of the band hall you can see in there, which is going to be a large portion of this one as well. It's going to take some extensive work because if you know on a band halls, they've got to be built soundproof. So even though everybody goes, oh, it's not a big deal, it's haydock block, the problem to build a haydock block is you've got to fill it full of moisture. So it's not just breaking a hole into it, you're breaking a solid piece of concrete or mortar down. So it's a big difference in there. So we just took over the band hall. Demo actually started today in there. They'll start demoing. We have a temporary walls put up, so it won't affect the kids, but we have moved the band people, the band kids classroom is now in the extra gym, the small gym down there. We took all the sound panels down, took them down there, gave them some cabinets from in the band hall we won't be using down long term. We took them all down there so they have that. We set that up as their classroom for now so we can get into it early because we were either going to do, if we didn't take it over early, we were going to be going in late in the next school year or start next school year with that still under construction. So one way or the other, we had to have it, do the extensive amount of work that has to go in there. But we'll be starting the masonry hopefully by the end of this week is what it's looking like right now. We're having some problems, imaginably enough, trying to match a 20-year-old grout to this year. So we're trying to get as close as we can so it just doesn't stick out. And so actually they just finished another test run today. We'll look at it. It'll be dry and everything by Wednesday, and we think that'll be a lot closer than the original one they put up. That didn't look anything like it. It really looked different. So that's where we're at on that. Like I said, we're starting on the band hall there. Here's a picture on the top left. The top left is the area in the awning where we're building the classrooms. All three of these actually are. That's going to be the middle one there, picture there. That is actually going to be the drama room. And the picture on the top right, that's the area right there that we'll be start doing masonry first. The columns you see were already there. That was part of the structure that was there, part of the building that was there when we originally built it. We're filling in between them and the wall that was in there. We're adding all that. So we'll be bricking in between those. Wherever place you see the yellow is where we'll be bricking everything you see where the masonry is. That was already part of the building there. We'll go to Prop C. Prop C has been the big push right now is because it's not occupied. It's T.C. Wildman building. You can see the picture there on the left is the new parking lot that's just been topped and then striped there, and that's the big one right there in front of the football field across from the building right there. That'll be the kids parking and staff. That's the big parking lot for everything really there. We do have one other small lot, but that'll be the main parking for the building. We've done that. We have the science wing you'll see here in a minute. We put new floors and remodeled that bathroom on that end of the building. It's the only part of that building that had VCT flooring. Everything else either has wood flooring or has sealed concrete. So that was the only place that had VCT. We did remove it, put LVT in there. That was part of Prop C already. We're working on putting LED lights all in the building. That is, again, sort of Prop C. And the support services painting team has been working diligently to freshen that building up, make it ready for high school kids, those kind of things it's doing. There's an extensive amount of work just doing that. There's a building in that parking lot that you'll see here in a minute. It's been called a whole bunch of different buildings, tax office, I've heard credit union, kind of different things, but we're reviving that building. It had a couple of holes in the roof. We put new roof on it, put new plywood, all those kind of things. We've ordered new windows and roll-up door to be installed. We've put gutters, soffits, painted it, and we've also spray foamed the interior. Once we get that climatized, then we'll start working on the inside, on the walls and the flooring and stuff like that. We've also got the new air conditioner system ordered for that building as well. That building will be housing a shop and a classroom out there for that teacher in that area out there. And then Felty Elementary, we'll be starting the work that was approved for that to replace that geothermal system on that area. We'll be starting you'll start to see some pads work start going on. They'll be working actually probably tomorrow or the next day. We were out there today looking at lining it out and everything where it's going to be. So that's going to be going on. Picture on the top left is just inside that building I was just talking to you about. Picture on the far right is the building I was talking to you about. We'll put new windows, new doors. Of course, we'll power wash the building, clean that up, but actually it's got new roof, all new paint, gutters, all those kind of things. But you can see the picture on your left there, it's already spray foamed and all that. We'll put new siding on the walls, all those kind of things. Picture on the right, you can see there, that's the LED lights that have gone into most of the classrooms. Some of them do have some drop ceilings, the old drop ceiling that we normally with ceiling tiles and flat panels, but those that don't, we've put in LED lights all through that building. This is the science wing we were just talking about, so the picture's on the left and in the middle. The middle is actually one of your science rooms. Picture on your left is one of the hallways going from the science wing going back up towards the stairwell of the main building. Picture on your right is the bathroom. That's how we'll be doing most of the bathroom remodels we approved last month. Y'all approved as a board to allow us to start moving forward. You're seeing the gray tile that you see, the light gray tile all the way around in there, floor to ceiling. It's epoxy floored, steel stalls, and then it'll have a dark gray to light black tile on the back of the wet wall that has to go through there. So it's going to look really nice in the end. Any questions?
Okay. So that last building you were showing is that building, if you're facing it to the left?
It's the science wing, yes.
Yeah, the old science wing?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what,
Yes, ma'am.
that looks great.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Yeah.
all three of those are that area
That
down
was
there.
a big giant kindergarten room.
Right.
Now it's back to a science room, likely where I had some
Okay.
great science.
I think I went in there once when it was the old
Yeah,
science
Wildman
thing.
called it the kindergarten wing.
Yeah, that's what he was saying, yeah. But I'm talking about when it was global before, and it was not, doesn't look near as nice as what it does now. Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else, Mr. Mott? Thank you very much, sir. Okay, our next report will be the informational report on WISD's Board of Trustees continuing education hours, which will be the most boring report of the evening. Under State Board of Education rule, completing required continuing education each year of service is a basic obligation and expectation of any sitting board member. As board president, I am required to announce the name of each member who has completed the required continuing education, has exceeded the required continuing education, and is deficient in meeting the required continuing education. These requirements for training are measured as of the first anniversary of the date of the trustee's election or appointment, or 2-year anniversary of his or her previous training as applicable. There are 7 training areas for board member continuing education. Number 1, local district orientation. Number 2, orientation to the Texas Education Code. Number 3, post-legislative update to the Education Code. Number 4, team building. Number 5, additional continuing education. Number 6, evaluation, student academic performance and setting goals. Number 7, identifying and reporting abuse, trafficking, and other maltreatment of children. To the extent applicable to each board member, I will announce the completion or deficiency as to required training. For members who still have time remaining to complete required training, I will announce those board members who have scheduled timely training and those who have not scheduled the training. At the conclusion of this announcement, I will announce any board members' training in excess of the continuing education requirements. Local district orientation. New board members Ryan Pitts and Adrian Cooper completed local district orientation training for the time period covered by this announcement. Orientation to the Texas Education Code. New board members Ryan Pitts and Adrian Cooper completed orientation to the Texas Education Code training for the same period covered by this announcement. Post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code. New board members Ryan Pitts and Adrian Cooper completed the post-legislative update training for the time period covered by this announcement. Team building. The following board members have completed the annual team building training: Dusty Autry, Adrian Cooper, Kim Kriegel, Judd McCutcheon, Ryan Pitts, Clay Schofield, Debbie Timmerman. Additional continuing education. The following board members have completed the additional continuing education requirements: Dusty Autry, Adrian Cooper, Kim Kriegel, Judd McCutcheon, Ryan Pitts, Clay Schofield, Debbie Timmerman. Evaluating student academic performance and setting goals. Note, this training must be completed every 2 years. The following board members have completed the biennial training on evaluating student academic performance and setting goals: Dusty Autry, Adrian Cooper, Kim Kriegel, Judd McCutcheon, Ryan Pitts, Clay Schofield, Debbie Timmerman. Identifying and reporting abuse, trafficking, and other maltreatment of children. The following board members have completed the biennial training on identifying and reporting abuse and trafficking: Dusty Autry, Adrian Cooper, Kim Kriegel, Judd McCutcheon, Ryan Pitts, Clay Schofield, Debbie Timmerman. Exceeding required continuing education. Board member Dusty Autry exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 14.5 additional hours. Board member Adrian Cooper exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 10.75 additional hours. Board member Kim Kriegel exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 23.5 additional hours. Board member Judd McCutcheon exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 14.5 additional hours. Board member Ryan Pitts exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 14.25 additional hours. Board member Clay Schofield exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 14.5 additional hours. Board member Debbie Timmerman exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 14.5 additional hours. That is the conclusion of the continuing education report. Any questions? Okay, moving on to report D, which is the informational update on the Mentors Care Program at Waxahachie High School for the 2024-2025 school year.
Yes, sir, President Altshuler. I just want to introduce back to the podium Brian Blackwell, who's our Mentors Care Managing Director.
Well, thank you, Board. Thank you, Dr. Ava, for having us back. It's hard to believe we're finishing up our third year serving the students of Waxahachie High School. We've had a great year, and I would really give credit to Mr. Perry and his team and for this community and to the administration here for their support. What I'm going to be going over with you tonight are our stats from August 2024 through January 2025. We will provide the administration a detailed report that will cover the entire school year, August through May. And we'll provide that end of June, early July. And it will have the stats that I'm going to show you tonight, but those numbers will look a little different. So first of all, I just want to go over with you quickly some program-wide numbers. We serve 20 high schools across North Texas. These are stats from last year. Last year, each of these factors are at risk, or factors that affect kids at school. And of those kids who had an issue with self-harm, 48% reported that that was no longer an issue for them. Being bullied was down 38%. Behavioral issues among those who had discipline was down 37%. Drugs and alcohol down 36%, and struggling socially 35%. So the program is working, and it's affecting a lot of kids' lives. These numbers I'm going to give you now are specific to Waxahachie High School. It's been a great year. We have a full caseload. I checked the numbers today. We have 74 mentors and 65 students in the program. And average at our schools, we run 50 to 60. So you guys are getting a few more students served than most of our other schools. But when we checked data in January, these were where the numbers were. We had 27 new students start the program this year. You had, I believe, 13 seniors exit the program last spring. And at that time, we had 60 kids in the program. Like I said today, that's 65. Back then in January, you had 66 mentors. You have 74 today. You have 7 seniors this year. And the Waxahachie community, by the end of January, from August through January, volunteered a total of 530 hours for an average of 8 per mentor. And then we have about 75% of our meetings happening as scheduled, and that's what we want. Mentor retention, we'd like to see that go up a little more. We always lose some mentors. When we have seniors graduate, mentors will say, hey, my student graduated, I've been with them for 2 or 3 years, I'm going to take a year off. Usually they come back, but I'd really like to see that number close to about 70%. So we're not having to recruit so many mentors every summer. If you take a look at this slide, these are ways that kids qualify for the program. We look at 3 different types of indicators. The number one are the TEA state at-risk indicators. These are factors that affect kids according to the Texas Education Agency. And number 2, we have our own indicators. There's more than what you see on the TEA list that affects kids at school. And then we have what we call our unchanging indicators. And these are the factors that our coordinator is looking at when they go to intake a student. Your staff at the high school does a great job of referring kids to us. At that point, once we take the referral from the teacher or the principal, we do an interview with the student. We're asking them questions, and we want your most struggling kids. Every student at Waxahachie High School, or most, would benefit from having an adult mentor, but we want your kids who have one foot out the door. Attendance issues, grade issues, behavioral issues, your kids that you're worried about not graduating. So these are the factors we look at when we go to talk to a student to see. Under state at-risk indicators at Waxahachie High School, kids who came into the program this year, 42% had been in DAEP, which is a high number, and that's what we want. We want those DAEP kids in our program. And that's not to say that 42% of the kids that were in the program went to DAEP. Of the kids that are in the program, 42% had been at DAEP previously. Semester grades below 70, that's pretty high as well. And what this slide tells me is that we're getting the kind of kids that we want. The staff is doing a really good job of referring the right kids to us. But at Mentors Care, we know that there's more factors other than just state at-risk indicators that affect kids at school. And these are research-based factors that affect kids, and you can see this is pretty typical. I'll tell you, across most of our high schools, most of our kids are not involved in the extracurricular, and it's our goal to try to get them in an extracurricular. A lot of our kids struggle from poor self-esteem, especially since COVID. Depression and anxiety are off the charts, behavioral issues. And so these are the factors that affect kids at Waxahachie High School besides state at-risk indicators. Then we have what we call our unchangeable indicators. These are also called adverse childhood experiences. These are catastrophic events that affect kids. And you can see that 50% of the kids in Mentors Care report having financial struggles. 43% report being from a broken home, or they're not living with their biological mother and father. 17% have reported losing a parent, which is really high. It's higher than most of our other schools. And then 5% have suffered some other type of trauma. Could have been a car wreck, a family illness, could have been being homeless at some time, just adverse childhood experiences. One of the things we do, of course, is mentor, but another thing that we do is we help kids with things they need outside of school. We do more than just mentor. And so we refer kids when they have a physical need. We'll find out that a kid needs food, or they need clothing, or they need, we had a student last year whose home burned down, and they were going to be homeless. So we were able to help them get into a hotel for a couple of nights so they could get some things figured out. So there were 13 students referred to our coordinator at Waxahachie High School. And 4 times we help with utilities. We referred out for that. If a student's about to get their lights or water turned off, we have resources they can go to help get assistance with that. We help twice with food needs. Basic needs could be clothing, could be school supplies. We were able to refer 2 students to an outside activity to try to get them involved in an extracurricular. We had one female student who became pregnant. We referred her for prenatal care. Then we referred 1 student for counseling outside of the school. That's not to the school counselor. That's to counseling outside of school. These are numbers also from Waxahachie. These are from last year. I thought it was good for you guys to see these. And these are kids, keep in mind, these are kids with attendance, grades, and behavioral issues. 96% of the kids that were in Mentors Care met the 90% rule for attendance. That means they're not going to lose credit in a course because they were there less than 90% of the time. 93% were promoted to the next grade level, and majority of our kids came in failing classes. Every senior at Waxahachie High School who was in Mentors Care graduated. Almost 60% of those who had discipline referrals the previous year showed a decrease in their discipline referrals. And then we were able to decrease at-risk indicators on our indicators by about 28%. Sometimes students outcry. They go to the coordinator. They're just having a really, really hard time. There were 9 times from August through January where Ms. Roy addressed students for anxiety. 1 was for basic needs. That's usually clothing. Kids need clothing sometimes, and we help with that. And then that 3, those were CPS reports. So there are times when we are informed that a student is dealing with abuse or neglect, and we, of course, contact CPS on that. There were 15 times this year already where we provided emotional support to students who weren't even in the program. They came by the office and needed to talk. To show, we also track kids from the previous school year, your seniors who graduated. These are 2024 graduates of WHS. You had 6 in Mentors Care who went on to college, 3 went to the workforce, and then 4 went on to either a trade school or some type of vocational school. But I love this stat. 47% of the students at Waxahachie High School report that they did not have a safe person to talk to before they came in to Mentors Care. And what you see is that relationship between the mentor and the student usually continues after that student graduates. That student now has a friend for life, and that's really powerful. We have Stephanie Roy here. She's the coordinator at Waxahachie High School. She's finishing up her 2nd year there, and she's also a graduate of Waxahachie High School. So I'll have Stephanie come up and introduce. We have one of her students who's going to say a few words, and we have one of our mentors here.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Roy. I am the Mentors Care Coordinator at Waxahachie High School. This is my 2nd year, but the 3rd year that we're at Waxahachie High School, and I have a student here with her mentor who is going to support her as she gives her her experience being in the program. This is her 1st year. Her name is Jasmine, sophomore at Waxahachie High.
Good evening. Before I started meeting with my mentor, I didn't really care about school that much. I wasn't failing, but I was okay with just getting B's and C's. And I kind of sucked at school, not because I couldn't do it, but because I wasn't trying. I didn't have the motivation nor confidence to do better. When I started talking to Maggie, my mentor, that started to change. She helped me realize I could actually do way better if I just put in effort. She believed in me and pushed me to care more about my grades and to stop doing the bare minimum. And I even joined a club for the first time, the FBLA Club, Future Business Leaders of America. And I got to help at the Christmas event. That was a big step for me because I never really been involved in anything like that before, and it made me feel more connected and confident. I also got my first job, which was something I never thought I'd be ready for, but with the support and encouragement I got from Mentors Care, I felt prepared and capable. Since then, I've gone from barely passing to getting straight A's all year. This is a big deal for me, and honestly, thanks to her support and encouragement, now I actually feel good about school and proud of what I've done. Mentors Care has helped me grow in so many areas of my life, both in and out of school. Thank you.
Any questions for me? I'm going to brag just a minute on this community, if I can. We serve 21 high schools. There are 3 high schools that we serve that don't have students on a waiting list. This is one of them. We actually have mentors on a waiting list, which is what we want to see. We don't want those kiddos coming by every week saying, hey, do I have a mentor yet? No, sorry, we're still looking. We have a surplus of mentors, and that just is a testimony to this community. So thank you for your support.
And it's obvious your program works.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys more than we want to be here a long time.
I was going to say, I attended y'all's fundraiser last year, the golf tournament.
Yes, sir.
Plan on doing it again. It was a really good event. If you want to give a shameless plug, I saw it was coming up again pretty soon.
Yeah, it's June 16th, I believe.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you guys there. And any of you guys are welcome to field a team. So information on our website. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, sir. Our next report will be our information report on policy update 124. Mr. Cagle.
Good evening, board. So our policy 124 update has come and is awaiting your review. As you know, there are local and legal policies in there, and this one has quite a few legal updates. As you can see, about 507 pages. I did not include that all in your packet, but there is an explanatory note that does give a brief description of all the local and the legal ones. But I did want to point out specifically what the local ones are talking about. And again, this is just an informational review, so we will be coming in May and seeking your recommendation to approve, barring any changes. But CAA local has to do with federal rules that address disclosure of any violation of federal law in connection with the federal award, so basically grant money usage. CDA local has to do with the sellers of investments, so that their representatives and distributors of these investment pools have to be a part of certain financial organizations. The CY local does have quite a bit of changes about intellectual property, so it clarifies the district's intellectual property, how it may be used, and who owns the intellectual property, particularly if it's created by staff members. But it also talks about how our employees are able to use certain copyrighted materials for instruction. DH, and you'll see a little bit later, there's another one, has a new section talking about tobacco and nicotine products and e-cigarettes. So this text recommends including nicotine products regardless of whether the product actually contains tobacco or is any sort of electronic vaping device. So a prohibition of that by any staff member, use of that on school premises or school property. EHB has to do with revisions to the administrative code in relation to dyslexia, as dyslexia is transitioning back to being under special education services. There's guidance on the use of the dyslexia handbook and following admission review and dismissal committee decisions, so ARD committees. EHBB has to do with gifted and talented, which really just changes some terminology in there, but it does have a section added about certain funding requirements. And then lastly, and I will read this one, kind of a description in its entirety because it could have an effect on some of our staff. So this is FFG local. So this is going to, in order to comply with revisions to the Family Code and Administrative Code, under reporting child abuse and neglect, a new subsection on oral reports is recommended to comply with changes in the law. In the making a report section, a paragraph has been added explaining that reporting individuals must provide their name and contact information when making a report. This policy continues to state that that the identity of the person making a report of a suspected child abuse or neglect shall be kept confidential and disclosed only in accordance with the law. And then lastly, because of our community relations and as
Sean,
referenced.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cagle.
Yes.
So would you read through that again? So now it must, the person, the individual must have their name and contact information identified when making a report as a person who has made a report. The policy, but it's supposed to be kept confidential, like within in-house, and the parents or whoever don't have a right to it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, there is some things moving in the legislature right now, which may make some adjustments to that, but in this policy suggestion, that is what you just stated is correct.
Okay, because, I mean, frankly, even though it's confidential, it's not easy to keep it confidential when you make a report.
And certainly, we don't want anything to prohibit any of our staff if they think that there's a need for such
I
reporting.
mean, unless the laws change, our staff has to report.
Absolutely.
Anytime there's any type of child abuse. So,
Suspected, yes,
anyway, thank you. I just want to be sure I heard that right.
Yes, ma'am. And lastly, community relations. Again, it is talking about prohibiting electronic vaporizing devices of any kind, and then those whether they include tobacco or not. So as you can see, there were quite a few legal ones. Again, those aren't really required to be approved by the board, but I highly recommend y'all checking those out. I will send you a link that has all the proposed language. So again, this is just informational. Please look over these and certainly let us know if you have any questions or concerns about these recommendations. Do you all have any other questions?
Anything else from Mr. Cagle? Okay, our last report will be our informational report on the corrective actions taken by WISD to fulfill the CAP Corrective Action Plan Agreement. What's up, Mr. Cagle?
All right, it's me again. So we have submitted all of our documentation for a corrective action plan that was put in, that was given to us by the state back in December. We'll have a timeline here at the end. But I wanted to point out, just so that everyone is reminded, this was related to our out-of-school suspension of some McKinney-Vento designated students. So McKinney-Vento and homeless are kind of interchangeable terms here. You can see an excerpt from the Texas Education of Homeless Children and Youth, which is a group within TEA that helps track these students and their needs, how McKinney-Vento eligibility is determined there on the right. But as you can see, there were 19 incidents across 5 different students, and again, this was in the 22-23 school year. Now, I do want to remind everyone that none of these students were unsheltered. So I know a lot of times when we say homeless, we automatically think that someone is living, exposed to the elements or in their car, but these students were not unsheltered. They were doubled up. They were living with people that may not have been their parents. So it's not that we out-of-school suspended students just right onto the street with no place to sleep. So these were the requirements. Basically, it is training, a couple of different kinds related to Chapter 37 of the Education Code, which is all the discipline, also the homeless requirements that we have. Number 4 there was the corrective action plan read at a board meeting, and that occurred in January. And then typical TEA obligations. So these were the groups that were involved in the training. So all of our campus administrators, we had 100% completion of Chapter 37 training update. Our district leadership team, which is principals and directors, and our assistant principals had 2 sessions of training based upon TECHI workshop information. And our counselors had a combined kind of smaller, since they're not really ones that make discipline decisions, but they are certainly involved with the care of these children. And our PEMS department also had a very short presentation, and they were very helpful in updating our discipline manual and creating some alerts in Skyward that will help us keep this from happening in the future. So very briefly, there was a timeline. Again, we were given this corrective action plan in December. It was reported at the board meeting in January. We had training February and March. Submitted our information just about a week ago. And then just late this afternoon, got an update from our TEA liaison saying that all of our training was aligned and relevant to statute and best practices, that it was great in-depth training, thoroughly spread across the district. Mr. Friel's suggestion on one of our trainings to have a check for understanding, they thought that was a great tool, and are going to be back in touch with us mid-summer. So I take that as all positive.
Okay, I just wanted to commend you, Mr. Cagle, because I have recently been dealing with a homeless family, and the district has been totally responsible for the McKinney-Vento and have taken care of all 4 of the kids, so I appreciate you.
Thank you for that update. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, item 7 is our consent agenda. We have a rather lengthy one tonight. We have items A through R.
Mr. President, I move that, I move we approve the consent agenda, items A through R.
Yep, a motion by Mr. McCutcheon,
Second.
second by Mr. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Moving to our action item A, consideration with possible action to approve a contract with Texas Air Systems for the replacement of the geothermal units at Howard Junior High with the cooling towers at a cost not to exceed $4.5 million. Is that correct?
Good evening, Board and Dr. Everett. Bringing a couple of Proposition C items to you tonight, the first 2 items. The first item is related to a cooling tower to replace the geothermal units that are over at Howard Junior High. We have 3 campuses in our district that have geothermal units. You've already approved a replacement of the geothermal at Felty. Mr. Mott gave a little bit of an update on that earlier in his construction report in Prop C. Howard is a second, and Clift is the 3rd campus. And if you've looked ahead in your agenda, you'll see that there's a similar action item coming up next for Clift. So we are effectively getting rid of the geothermal systems at our campuses. We do have some Proposition C money that was to address HVAC concerns at Howard. Did not specifically call for the removal of the geothermal system and the construction of cooling towers, but we do have construction savings within Prop C that will enable us enough funds to go in at Howard Junior High and spoiler alert, at Clift Elementary, that'll be the next item, to go in and replace those geothermal units with these chill towers. So we are asking for your approval tonight to replace the geothermal unit at Howard Junior High with cooling towers not to exceed $4.5 million.
Any questions for Mr. Collins? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve action item A. Motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Schofield. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, action item B will be consideration with possible action to approve a contract with Texas Air Systems for the replacement of the geothermal units at Clift Elementary with cooling towers at a cost not to exceed $3 million.
I had a long presentation for this one, but I already let the cat out of the bag. Ordered the same project, just a $3 million cost not to exceed at Clift Elementary.
Any questions? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve action item B as presented.
Motion to approve action item B is presented.
Motion by Mr. Pitts,
Second.
second by Mrs. Kriegel. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. And our last action item will be consideration with possible action to approve an agreement to increase the sewer line from 8 to 12 inches near Waxahachie Creek High School to serve junior high school number 4 with Oak Hole Investment LLC to contribute $107,121.44 to the upgrade.
Thanks, sir. Board, this is out of Proposition B with the construction of Waxahachie Creek High School. And we're asking essentially for your approval tonight to accept a donation. So the donation would be for $107,121.44. That is the increased cost to increase a sewer line that will eventually serve junior high number 4. That's again right south of the to-be-built spur 394. The Waxahachie Creek, spur 394, and then the junior high, or property for junior high number 4. This sewer line, we're gonna go ahead and put it in now. It's no time that it will be cheaper to go ahead and put in than when the land is wide open and we are not disturbing any other construction. So we're gonna go ahead and put in the sewer line to serve junior high number 4, and then TxDOT will eventually come along and put in spur 394. So by having this in place already, it will save us a lot of time and a lot of expense going forward. What you're being asked to consider is an upsizing of that sewer line to go from 8 inches to serve that area to a 12-inch line. And again, that cost was $107,121.44. So the request is for your approval. We will install a 12-inch line and we will get reimbursed from Oak Hole Investments for that cost.
Mr. President, I'll be abstaining from this vote as a neighboring landowner who could potentially benefit from this down the line. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Calden? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve action item C as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Kriegel,
Second.
second by Mr. McCutcheon. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0 with Mr. Pitts abstaining.
Thank you, Board.
Thanks, sir. And our last item will be our comments from individual board members in any particular order.
I'd just like to say we're well aware that we're in the middle of a STAR EOC and that we feel you. We know the stress on our students and on our teachers, and we just are thinking about you, praying for you, and a test doesn't define our kids, so it shouldn't define you either. So thank you and good luck. I know you are going to knock it out of the ballpark.
Anyone else? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Kriegel. Second by Mr. Cooper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much.